So in the previous example, what we saw was we passed in a name as a query string. But what if we want to pass a name as a path parameter? So let's see how we can achieve that. So basically we are going to create another URL with user as a resource, and then we are going to pass username as a parameter and then invoke our lambda function with that. So here you can see that we have this URL like /user/username/hello. So basically we will extract the username from this path and then pass it on to invoke our lambda function instead of passing in name as a query string. So let's see how we can achieve that. So this is how we are going to achieve that. So if I go back to our API gateway dashboard, we already have one API created, hello world. So I'm going to click on that. In the actions menu, I'm going to click on create resource, and over here the resource name will be user, and then I'm going to click on create resource. So over here again we are going to add another resource over here, and the name would be username, but in the path we are going to put it under curly braces. So this will be our path, and then I'm going to click on create resource. Now let's add one more path to it. So I'm going to click and name it as hello. So now when we invoke this URL, we'll pass in the username and then it will invoke our lambda function. So let's create our get method. So I'm going to select get over here and then click on the checkbox. So over here in the integration type, we are going to keep it as lambda function. In the region, we are going to select US East 1. You will have to select your own region. And the lambda function would be our same hello world. And then I'll click on save. And again, it's going to ask if API gateway will be given permission to invoke a lambda function, and we're going to click on OK. So basically we are now going to follow the same steps. So over here we have our method request, our integration request, which is going to call the hello world lambda. So now let's transform our integration request, because we are going to pass in username as a parameter. So we need to modify our integration request. So I'll click on that. I'll scroll down and then click on body mapping templates. And then I'm going to select when there are no templates defined, and in content type over here I'll click on add mapping template, type in application JSON, click on the checkbox over here, and over here in the mapping template we're going to add the same mapping template that we had used in our previous example, only this time the input parameter would be username instead of name. And then we'll have a JSON which will have key as name and the value as the username that you have passed in the URL. So that JSON we are going to pass into our lambda function. Don't forget to click on save over here. So now let's go back to method execution and then click on test over here to see what we have. So in the path we're going to enter the username as Arpan, and so here is the URL on the top. You can see this is the URL that it will invoke, and I'm going to click on test, and we got a response back from our lambda function. Now let's transform our response to the way it was in our previous example. So I'll go back to method execution, click on integration response, expand this, then again in the body mapping templates, Here we have application JSON. I'm going to click on that. And in the generate template, I'm going to add this just as in our previous example. So over here, our entire response would be appended over here. And so basically our key value would be hello. Hello would be the key, and the value would be the response that we received from JSON. So you don't forget to click on save over here. And I will go back to method execution. Now let's test it again and see how our response look like. And again, the username, I'll keep it as same. Click on test, and our response has been transformed. So this is how our response looks like now. So I'll go back to our method execution. So now you know the entire process. First, we added the integration request to transform our input to the JSON which our Lambda function understands, and then again the response was transformed to the way we wanted in the integration response. So this is our Lambda function. So now let's deploy our API to production. So I'm going to click on user, click on actions, and then I'm going to click on deploy API. Deployment stage, we'll just keep it as prod, and then we'll give a deployment description as username path, just for namesake. I'm going to click on deploy. So it deployed our API. So over here in the stages, you can expand prod. Over here you can click on the get to get our URL, and then I'm going to click on this link. So over here again, I'll replace the username path with my username, and then it will give us a hello message back. So I'm going to go back. So this is how our deployed API looks like. So I'll go back to resources. So in this example, we saw how to use a path parameter, and you can try this out and see.